I am gonna start recording the meeting though, just because, well, there's only two of us, so really I shouldn't even open the meeting yet. Um, I guess I will text both Scott and Bob and remind them the meeting started at 6, because I bet they forgot. Yeah, hopefully they pop in, because I'm really excited to get through these regulations, when we're so close. Just want to get them done. And it's your last meeting.
Yeah.
Kind of sucks.
Not that it's a last meeting.
No, right. Mm. Yeah, I'm sure you're going to be happy to get your Thursday nights back.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you'll miss all your trips to the library.
Yes. Listen to that. It's been interesting
Sure.
to watch it.
Yeah. Think about all the things you learned about libraries.
Joe
Okay.
Pieweed. I thought that was definitely milkweed.
Yes, no, I think it was milkweed. I didn't want to correct Mary Ann because when she first pointed it out, I said, "Oh, that's such a short Joe Pye weed." And then as we kept walking, I looked again and I was like, "No, that's milkweed, and the color of the flower is exactly like Joe Pye weed, but Joe Pye weed gets a lot taller and it has a different leaf and everything." Um, I guess I had never realized that milkweed's flowers are the same, that same pinky purpley color that Joe Pye weed is, but I think it was milkweed.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I too didn't want to dispute it, mostly because I wasn't sure that I was right.
I wasn't sure at first either. I'm looking at it and I'm like, it's the right color, but it's not the right height. And then the leaves were so milkweed, the rest of the plant was so milkweed. So
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, after a bit of walking around, I'm like, no, I think that's milkweed. But
Does
anyway,
milkweed like wet ground?
um, I would definitely have to look up to see what it's determined as, but I've definitely seen it in upland areas. So it could be facultative, meaning it kind of goes either way. But I've certainly seen it all over fields that are upland fields.
I
So,
haven't been able to get it to grow at my house. That's why I ask.
oh, um, yeah, like some randomly grows in our backyard. It's more upland. I'm trying to think what would make it like a better environment for it. I definitely like sun. It's definitely a meadow, open meadow kind of plant.
That may be my problem.
Yeah, if you have much shade, I think it's not
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Well, where are these people? Since this is really just going through the regulations, no, I still feel like we should have a quorum.
Is the plan just to go through what we haven't finished tonight and then double back and see some of the parts and pieces that we were gonna revisit?
Yeah, I think I'd like to get through one version so tonight finish, get to the end. And then I was gonna myself go through and um just take a good look at all of it and identify those spots, yeah, where we're gonna go back and look. So that we can have a meeting where I know exactly which sections to talk about and
When you get to the part on the boats and buoys or floats or whatever it was,
yeah,
it would be good if you took the time to go back and look at chapter 91. Um,
yeah.
it really does concern me to throw buoys into that mix. Because in my mind, that means people would probably yank buoys and that would be removing the safety aspect that they bring,
Hmm.
which then is fighting with that boating safety group.
Yeah,
And you get into a funny place there that might not be where you want to land.
yeah, yeah. I definitely want to look at that whole section again because I definitely had some concerns about how it fit into the wetlands regulations.
That and even if you want, even if you read it in a way that says you've got to do something, which I could read it the other way, um, I think I would make some sort of exception, like maybe just have people notify you that they have them, you know, as opposed to turning it into a permitting, paying, annual pain in the butt
Right,
kind of situation. Because
right,
it's nothing we're going to be able to manage and control.
right.
And
We can't get into a situation where we're requiring annual permitting of something
oh,
to the Conservation
and
Commission.
not,
We
and
don't
especially
have,
not that where somebody's just throwing a Clorox bottle out there.
yeah,
It's not like we're talking, you know, buoys that ships are gonna pass.
right, right. Or even that there's like, rocks all of a sudden in the middle of the lake that really need to be, it's not that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, oh, Bob says thanks. So here he is.
Was Scott coming tonight?
Yeah, I think so. He's around. He had been texting questions about the CPA stuff.
Okay.
Hi, Bob.
Hey, thanks very much for the reminder. I apologize. I had it on my calendar at 7.
Yeah, that's okay. Hopefully this is our last 6 o'clock one, which kind of throws everybody off a little bit. I was just gonna wait for Scott because I thought he was gonna come too. I texted him too. Um, but
I'm
I
gonna
don't know.
quickly go grab some salmon then if we're waiting, okay?
Yeah, yeah, go ahead. And I say we wait 10 more minutes or at the most, and then just go.
Hey, Beth, sorry, quick question. What section are we on in the bylaw right now?
We're on section 8. At the end there, I think it's consultant fees.
Very good. Okay, thanks.
I think we should just go. I don't know what's going on with Scott. I bet you he'll show up at 7. And I know Mayor's not coming till 7, so let's just go. It is June 26th at 6:17. I'm bringing this meeting of the Shutesbury Conservation Commission to order. We're meeting from 6 to 7 to finish up looking at the regulations. Woohoo!
So I will be here. I'm just going to go screen dark, okay?
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. I think this is what I want to share. And then I want to go to here. All right, here we are, consultants and consultant fees. I read through this section and had no issues with it. It's all about when the Conservation Commission ends up having to hire a consultant, like a wetlands scientist to do a delineation or a engineer to look at a stormwater report. And all of this is very familiar to me just from Amherst. I think it's in a lot of it's in the Wetlands Protection Act, but even if it's not, it must be in the Amherst regulations. It's just the process is exactly what we followed there when we had to hire consultants. And I know we've done it, this committee has done it too, but it was when Miriam was the chair, so she did a lot of the figuring out of the fees and setting it all up. Like you know, there's a special account that you set up with the town, and all the, the applicant puts the money in, and then you spend the money down, and then whatever money is left over goes back to the applicant. And the applicant really doesn't have much of a choice. If the commission feels like they need a consultant or a third party or something to look at something, and they decide that, then that's how it works. So I don't know, did you guys have any questions about that language?
It seemed to me to follow the both the MACC model as well as the state regulations. So I think it's great. It's a powerful thing, especially for something that needs an engineering review. So I wholeheartedly support this section.
Jan, did you have any questions or comments on it?
I don't, I think I brought up my comment before. I have a sort of a side comment though. In the time that I've been here, this really is a side comment too. I haven't seen budget or balance sheets for the commission. Bookkeeping.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm suggesting or recommending that maybe having that annually produced and made public would be a good idea.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe not necessarily made public, but I think the commission should see it maybe, annually, just so that the commissioners have an idea of the different accounts that the commission has and where the money goes, like the fees that people pay for their applications and stuff, and what we can use the money for. I think that's a valid discussion. I have memories of it under Miriam, because we were paying for things. We were hiring lawyers and things a bit more at that time. And so there was more discussion of which accounts had what money in them and stuff like that. So,
I
yeah.
don't think we should limit it to the commissioners though. And the reason that I say that is we have residents and whoever paying these permit fees and special things like what we're talking about right now. I think that you could get more buy-in from the public if they knew that their permit fees went into this kitty and that this kitty protected this by doing, XYZ.
Hmm.
I think it would help. I get a little uh, funny about the commission taking money and not accounting for it. And so I guess it wouldn't just be for the commissioners, but I think the whole public should know. And, I mean, you can provide enough detail so that it's understandable. You don't have to go, completely into the weeds with it, but just so people know where the money goes and why it's beneficial.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it's not a lot of money.
And
I
that may
think,
be true, but
in the
still,
end, we have two different accounts, I think possibly three that are kind of from different sources over time. And what's interesting really is which monies can be used for what. The fees can really only be used for the processing of applications. So photocopying, I think part of Mateo's salary can come out of the fees, but such as like photocopying and mailing, all the mailing that we do, that's the only thing you can use those fees for. So the other pockets of money, I don't even really remember where some of them have come from, but um, we used a little bit of money to buy West Quabbin um, conservation area that was Conservation Commission money. So there is some other pots, but it would be beneficial, obviously, because I don't really know exactly to have part of one of our meetings talk about that. And honestly, I think I would present it as like, as a commission, let's look at our financial situation, and whatever public wants to watch the meeting and learn about it, I'm okay with that. I don't think there's any reason for us to sort of, invite the public to see this. It would just be a discussion that the commission would have to be updated on, but it would be done in a public meeting, so people could watch it if they wanted to.
I
Um,
think you'd wind up getting support, largely getting support. Because for example, this year you're going to deal with the South Brook trails. And I think people will want to know that. And they tally up the volunteers and convert them to matching money. Those are good things to show. So, I don't know, that's my 2 cents.
yeah, no, I think that's great. I like that idea, and we'll find a time to do that. Um, the end of the fiscal year, which is where we're at, is actually maybe a good time to look at finances. But yeah, we can do that.
And certainly
Uh,
everything we do and everything we have is a matter of public record. So if anybody did want to see the books, they could just simply put in a request with the town clerk. So but I think what you're saying is, Jen, it might be beneficial to have it kind of as part of a meeting to see where we're at. Is that correct?
I'm definitely saying that. And if we did it once a year, if we did it quarterly, whatever you choose to do, if people know that you're going to say, here's the books, here's how we account for what we did, and here's what you got for it. I think that's really a good formula.
mhm. Yeah, no, I think that's fine, and we can definitely do that. This is a little different. This if we need to hire a third party for something, um, there we would have to talk to the town accountant about setting up an account that would just be for the money that the applicant would put forward for this one hiring of a
You,
consultant,
I
you know,
understand what you're saying, but
so
I
that's a little
think I would
different.
I think I would include that in the accounting. We have 3 accounts where we had to bring in consultants for X, Y, or Z, and the resident put in the funds, and this, I would account for how the money comes in and goes out, because my concern that I identified earlier was that we don't have any cap, and you pointed out the state doesn't have any cap in their rules. And maybe that's okay, but it's scary if you're put into a position of having to pay and not knowing, which end of your checkbook you're going to wind up on in the end. But if you can see that there's a routine process and it isn't scary and other people have gone through it, you're just creating a level of trust, I think.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I think so. And any applicant that has to go through this process, we would very clearly explain to them how it's going to go. And you have to provide them the quote. So you're hiring, say you're hiring an engineer to review a stormwater report. You get a quote from that engineer. You share it with the applicant, and before there's any money exchanged at all. And then, like I said, there's language in here that any money that's not spent goes back to the applicant. So the town's not making any money off of it, I guess, that it strictly goes to paying for this third party review.
Yeah.
Um,
If we
so-
did this too and somebody had questions, it would be easy to, have Mateo Xerox off the minutes from that meeting or whatever. I'm just trying to simplify it and not make it a big deal. Just make it a part of what we do.
Mhm. All right, well, so that is that section. On hiring a consultant. And next we have minimal conditions regulating the work. This is like one of the last sections. So exciting. I think I read through this and didn't have any changes either.
Beth, could you enlarge that slightly?
Yep. How's that?
My old eyes, thank you.
Sure.
So on the very first one, 9.1, you've
Yep.
got to have certain permits and licenses. Chapter 91 was one of those cases that we had a problem with and had to deal with it this year. Because we don't have any control over what happens when the applicant puts something into the state for Chapter 91, for example. I thought that we were willing to accept that they had applied. Not that they necessarily got their license because the state was doing whatever on their own timeline.
Yeah.
I think the key here is that it's no activity may begin, and not as opposed to we can't hear a meeting unless that stuff comes in. I know for notice of intent, the state language is all local permits must either be in hand or be applied for. So this wouldn't slow us down in making a decision, but it would. I mean, it makes sense that somebody who's doing a project needs to have all their permits before they begin their project.
Yeah.
Or
I agree
applied
with that.
for, or applied for.
Well, we do our, like Bob is saying, we do our thing. So this is saying no activity may proceed. It's not saying no permits may be issued. So we can still go through the whole process of issuing an order of conditions that's good for 3 years to someone, as long as, and we can include in our, as we do in our language, that they need to have applied. But what this is talking about is that they can't actually start their project until they've gotten all of their applications, which in the end, that's really almost like a condition that we would put in an order of conditions is, we're giving you your permit. It's good for 3 years. Here's your order of conditions, all the things you have to do. One of them is you can't start work until you've got, and that's actually a standard condition in our standard conditions. And I think it lists chapter 91. I'd have to look, but we definitely have a standard condition saying that all local, state, federal permits need to be acquired before you can start work.
Except that we have allowed people not to do that. Was that because the regulation was different?
We've allowed people to actually start building something when they don't have their chapter 91 permit.
Yeah. That's how we got into trouble down the street. My understanding was that all they needed to do was to have applied for the chapter 91 permit. And that because we can't control what the state is doing in that permitting process, that was good enough. When it comes to getting a certificate of completion, they should be able to show that license. That doesn't mean they can't start their job.
Because it's just taking too long.
Yeah.
Well, then that's a thought about just taking that out of this list.
Yeah.
We certainly want them to have all these other permits before they start work.
Yeah, those make sense. More likely to make sense anyway. Chapter 91 is just it's a futzy one.
If it takes too long, I don't mind taking it out.
I don't mind
Oopsie.
taking it out either.
I'm gonna do edits.
If I had to say my worst experience working with an agency in the last 5 years has been doing Chapter 91 stuff on a pre-existing kayak launch that I was just trying to put steps in. So I'm not a fan.
Yeah,
I think we have to be careful that chapter 91 doesn't become our living nightmare.
trying to get my editing thing going on here. What does this say? Add a comment, suggest edits. Still not doing it. Maybe we do suggest edits. Yes. Makes me every time we're doing this, I still figure that out. All righty. Next is the commission shall receive 48 hours advance notice in writing before commencement of activities. So these are kind of like conditions these are some of our standard conditions in our order of conditions. Application of be approved by the commission, in place and be maintained. Copy of the permit should always be kept. Yeah.
A regular question that I have received pertains to that. Let me just zip by it. Until the disturbed areas have been stabilized to the satisfaction of the commission. That's pretty, it's nebulous. People don't understand what that means. So I kind of went with, has 75% of your grass started to grow, you know? And they got that. So I don't know if we can make that any more specific. I mean, the objective is to not have dirt hit the water. I think everyone gets that, but because
Yeah.
they do different things, sometimes they're the gardening or sometimes they're growing grass or whatever. I don't know.
Would you be comfortable
Well,
with saying in parentheses following that, for example, 75% of grass has grown in?
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's enough just to give them that notion of what it means.
yeah, I'll have to check and see what our standard conditions say. I'm just gonna call it vegetation.
Yeah, that's better.
Because to me, part of it really is that the commission's come out and done a site inspection, you know, and talked about it at a meeting. So it's satisfaction of the commission. Yeah, maybe it's grass or vegetation that's 75% grown in, but maybe it's more than that, you know.
Yeah, yeah, everything is a little bit different. That's true, but the question is always coming, you know, like, well, what does that mean? What does that, you know? So
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and I think, I think it's great to say, do examples. I think what I'd like to respond is, well, we're gonna send a commissioner out to look, you know, and then
yeah,
the
but then
commissioner takes
the question is,
pictures.
when do I call them? You know, am I there
Right,
yet?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Whoops. Ah. All right, copy of the permit should always be kept on site. Work shall proceed in strict accordance with the permit. All structures, facilities, and equipment as part of the permit shall be continuing operating. Yep. All work shall be completed in such a manner as to prevent eutrophication. And to changes require island new or require changes. That's what filing a new NOI is. Wait, any substantial changes made or intended to be made in the plan shall require the applicant to, I think this should be request an amendment. Or it could just be inquire with the commission whether the change is so substantial that it was require. I'm gonna
Yeah,
say,
perhaps if you omitted the file a new NOI section there and then add, and then at the end, the caboose say require filing a new permit or amendment to a permit.
yeah. Ah. All right, applicant to inquire of the commission. Like that, in writing whether the change is so substantial as to require the filing of a new permit. Or,
An amendment to the existing permit, perhaps.
yeah. There we go. Good. Okay, request for an extension must be submitted in writing less than 30 days prior to the expiration date. All right. You guys have any other changes to section 9?
Yes, I am questioning 911. If there was no professional involved in the planning, so is that, so if there's no professional involved in the planning, this is null? Or how do you decide on a case-by-case basis whether you need an as-built certification? If it's simple and
I think
Um,
I think the state form says professional or other qualified individual or something like that, as determined by the commission. I think maybe some language like that would work here.
but if you've got a really simple project, then
Then we have the
Well,
out of the commission being able to determine who's qualified to do that. I mean, I've had applications that were just so well put together by homeowners that we didn't require a PE to give a stamped plan, and the commission in this case could do that same kind of decision.
okay, so that's where we're using the case-by-case line.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. I think it's okay. I mean, in the end, so many of these decisions end up being sort of case by case.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right. One. Oh my God, we're almost done. Unless otherwise specified, it must be P. Additional or different forms for the administration, adoption of rights. Sample forms should be available. Yep, that's it.
Are we going to have a different or our own form for simplified projects?
Yeah, we already have an application form that's administrative approval that I think Miriam put together. And that's the application form, and we'll just change the title of it to be for small projects. I still have yet to put the permit form together. And I've been, for all these administrative ones that we've been getting, I've been using a determination of applicability form and just using a Sharpie and covering up anything that says refers to the Wetlands Protection Act and just writing in bylaw instead. So we do need to create a permit form for the small. I was kind of waiting until we got through this because it'll be for a small project instead of administrative approval.
Okay.
And so, yeah, we'll have our own forms for that. We're kind of halfway there. All right, so the fees, this has all already been determined and voted on by, is that what this is? Or just a little different? Oh, no, this is the NOI. This is just info for people who are submitting notices of intent and need to calculate their fees. And I'm assuming this is up to date with the Wetlands Protection Act, but I can check and see. And what's this? Appendixes. Appendixes. Appendix B, abbreviations. Nice. And that's it. That is the-
Unbelievable.
This is huge. I'm proud of us for going through this
Yes, me too.
page by page.
Cake for all.
I am curious what wetland replication translocation methodology is.
Well, let's see. Wetland replication translocation methodology. I'm actually wondering where we use that abbreviation in our document. But, right, it's like the method when you're creating a wetland because you have to for mitigation. It's your
Okay, yeah, so you've
it's your method.
deactivated another wetland because you had to fill it in, and this would be the wetland replication translocation methodology. Okay, I'm good with that.
Yeah, that must be what it is. But you got me wondering. I will see where we use that WRT abbreviation.
Well, this is great. Many thanks to the three of you, and Scott just let me know that he will be on in about 15 minutes. So,
Oh.
And Mayor and everybody who came before us, this is a tremendous project and outgoing or ongoing thing, and I really think it's a very worthwhile. So thank you all.
Yeah, I think, when we started with this, there was a lot of talk of just approving it the way it was. It had been created under Miriam in a lot of ways, and I just really felt like we were the new commission, and it was such an educational process for everybody on the commission to go through all of this, and it really helps you to understand what you're doing as a commissioner. And so I think it was a worthwhile effort. It took a long time, but so yay. We
Yay.
made a lot of good changes, I feel like. I think we clarified a lot of things. And it's going to be a good set of regulations. So now what I think I'll do with it is spend a little time myself going through and looking at the changes. And then I think before we have a public hearing, bring it back again to us to talk about any areas where we didn't really resolve an answer. Because I think there are a few areas in there that we got into big discussions, and maybe we just decided to move forward, or or when I look through it, I'll be like, I'm confused as to what we finally decided with that particular section or that particular comment. So I think one more time, we'll bring it back. We don't have to have any more 6 o'clock meetings, but one more time, I'd like to bring it back and have the commission address stuff like that. Then after that, I'm just gonna take it and clean it up, clean up a lot of that. We'll have a red line version and a cleaned up version that we then bring to a public hearing. And we'll have to, post that as a separate meeting and everything and advertise it as a public meeting, like public hearing to go through the regulations. And then if we really don't have a lot of public comment and we vote on it, we're done. And that's the regulations.
So we have a public hearing and maybe we get public comment. Is the commission required to act on any public comment, or is that discretionary then after a public hearing?
It's similar, I think, to public hearings we have now, where the public makes a comment, the commission addresses it right then and there as to whether they agree, and then they want to change the regulations based on that comment. Similar to a public hearing for a application where, if someone in the public says something that we all go, oh yeah, we should add that as a condition or something to a permit, we do. So we're not required to do whatever they suggest we do. We're required to deliberate on their comment having to do with our regulations.
And that deliberation occurs during the public hearing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, unless we get a huge amount of people with a huge amount of comments, which, yeah, I hope that doesn't happen, but I've been in meeting situations like that before, where then you really, maybe one of us is assigned the job of writing down all the comments that come in, and we provide written response. And, it just depends how complicated it gets. If we just have a few people with a few comments, I think we can just deal with it in the public hearing. If it's much more than that, then we may have to, as I said, like provide written responses, probably have two public hearings, address, you have to address the public's comments in some way.
Okay.
Yep. All right. It's only 6:50. We have some time. So I should see it. I'm gonna stop sharing.
Let's see. So
I see no Scott in the waiting room or anything.
yeah, he said he would be here at 7.
Oh,
I did want to ask about we've been kicking around the idea of having the rep from DEP do some commission education. And it looks like with Jan's sad departure, we'll likely have a new commissioner on board. I think if we could put something on the calendar for that new commissioner, and for the rest of us to do, say, a few hours of education with the circuit rider would be great.
yeah, I can check in with Mark again. Um, about that. Yeah, I think he was gonna come to one of our meetings once, and then I think another time he was doing sort of like a training for a number of towns, and we could have gone to that. Okay. We can do that. And we want to talk about the budget at some point.
I'm just gonna go fill my cat's bowl so it stops pestering my ankles, okay?
Yeah. Go for it. I'm gonna go get a glass of water.
Beth, can I share with you some success I had as a conservation agent today? Oh, sorry, you muted.
Yes, yes, sounds
So
good.
there's this one trail that just has had, people will bag the dog poop and just leave the bag. So
Mhm.
we put up one of our trail cameras, and we caught the person literally bagging it up and abandoning the bag. So it's like, yes. So
Do you think it's the same person like every day?
yes, it's the same color bag. We think it's
Okay.
the same person. Certainly enough
Okay.
to invite them for a conversation on the matter. So
Oh, yeah.
that was quite satisfying.
Yeah, it is very satisfying. So then are you gonna like have one of your staff kind of sit and wait for that person and now they know what they look like and say, hey.
We were able to recognize by their face who they are. So we
Okay.
will likely send them an address. I send them a message describing the not one, not two, but three laws that they violated by doing that, and ask them not to do it anymore. So
That's great. Good for you.
yeah,
That's excellent. I know people seem to think, some people think, the bags are biodegradable. There's that sort of thought of it all. But what I always hate is when you see them in rivers and people have dropped them in catch basins.
yes,
They're walking their dog and then they just drop them and then they just it's
yeah,
terrible.
just disappears. No, it then becomes both plastic and waste um, a problem. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, it's bad. It's definitely bad. Well, I had not great experience at work today.
Oh, you
And
tell.
that we have a grant. It's with the Executive Office of Economic Development for Infrastructure, and
Sure.
it was split between FY25 and FY26. And basically, luckily, we had more money in FY25 than FY26 because it was ARPA funded. And they called today and said that all the money that was for FY26 is being frozen.
Oh
And
no.
is basically, so I said, does that mean it's gone? Is that what you're basically telling me? And he said, you may want to just consider it that way. Like they're not going to know about it being unfrozen for 6 months or something like that.
Oh man, how frustrating.
Yeah.
You'd already had that in your plans and so on. That's tough.
Yeah. And the first thing he said was, I have good news and bad news. I'm like, oh, well, what's the good news? And the good news was simply that all the FY25 money we would get, meaning we hadn't, this quarter, I had just submitted our, our, our payment request and we actually hadn't spent the total that we had been granted for FY25. And I was actually going to see if we could move some to FY26. Um, but his whole positive comment was that they would like prepay us everything that was under FY25, even if we hadn't spent it.
Mhm.
So we will, and with the honor that we will, do the work and obviously report to them, but it's sort of they're paying ahead because they know that next year's is going to be gone. And I was just like,
That's a poor consolation prize, if anything. Oh my.
I know, I know. It was not so great, but so is the way things are going these days.
Mm.
That's how I feel. But hi, Scott.
Hey Scott, welcome.
Hey everyone, sorry I'm late.
It's okay. You missed the last day of going through the regulations, so we got to the end. We're done.
Awesome. Yay, well, congratulations.
Feels pretty good. Really good. No more 6 o'clock meetings.
Yeah, sorry, my apologies. I had it down. I just thought we were meeting at 7 and didn't look at the online calendar until I get your text, but
Yeah, you weren't at our last meeting, so I forgot to even, let you know that my fault too. But all right.
I'm glad it worked.
Yeah. 6:59. No, there we go. 7 o'clock. Yay. So I'll open the meeting again. We opened it at 6, but now it's our official meeting, June 26th. I'm opening this meeting of the Shutesbury Conservation Commission. This meeting is being recorded. And let me get my agenda. I have, as chair, I have no comments, I don't think at this point. So we'll just move on to number 3, which is review and vote on minutes of June 12th. Did everybody get a chance to look at the minutes of June 12th? Does anybody have comments?
They look fine to me. And I hope John stays on.
That is a good, yes, and we'll make a comment about that. But first, I need a motion to approve the minutes of June 12th, 2025.
I would like to so move.
Second?
I'll second.
All right. Douglas,
Hi.
Con,
Hi.
Rowan? I think you're muted, Jan.
Aye.
And Wilson, aye. I just realized, I think Mare said she was coming at 7 too. I don't see her here yet, but we have quorum, so we'll just move along and she can join. But yeah, a comment from the chair should be that we need to thank Jan for her, at least a year, right, Jan? Or has it been more than a year?
A little bit more, yep.
Yeah. Of great work for the commission. So many site visits.
So many trips to the library.
Trips at the library, yeah. But you very nicely went along with that when I suggested that you do the site visits and do the site visit forums, and you've been very diligent about doing that, about going to all the site visits. It's been super helpful for me. Here's Mayor. So anyway, thank you. Thank you for your service to the town. It was great. I hope you sort of enjoyed it.
Thank you, Jan.
Everyone should experience it once.
There you go. And there's
Thanks,
many
Jan.
other committees you could get on if you wanted
Yeah.
to get on. All right. So next we have site visit update. Jan, your last site visit update.
So my last site visit update is going to be a topic we hit coming up. I went over to the North Beach. The Lake Wyola Association is looking to remove 4 trees there. And the closest tree is 50 feet away from the lake, so that's good. An arborist looked at the trees and determined that they were either in bad shape or would be if their neighbors were cut down. So, one was counting on the other to hold them up. And it looks like there's no access for big equipment to get in there, so I'm guessing it's just going to be a guy and a saw, so they won't have too much ground disturbance. I think that could easily be handled with an administrative request.
Yeah, I concur. Projects like that can be safety related. I'm fully in favor of doing that as a administrative action by the commission.
All right, well, we'll talk a bit more about that at 7:15. We can have the applicant present, but any other site visit reports?
I think that's the last one because we did the library visit today.
Mhm.
Where's Mayor? That one's yours, Mayor.
Yeah, sorry, I can't get my video to work and I don't know, I'm trying everything and I think I'm just gonna log out and log back in, but just briefly, the site visit for the library, it was that last pond or last retention area that's closest to the street they all need to be fixed, all 3 of them. But the 3 main ones, but the one closest to the street is getting more water than it should, and Jan has been saying that for a long time, so that it's not doing the job it's supposed to. So that one, again, there's just concern about that one.
Okay. Yeah, and yeah, we don't have it on as a separate item that we also looked at the revegetation of the areas of the wetland areas. So Ward Smith had provided us with the final report of those restoration areas for wetland area 2 and wetland area 3 that we had required the library folks to do. And Mary Ann came to our last meeting and
Right.
to talk about that report from Ward. And everything seemed fine. Ward's report in summary just basically said that the revegetation was a success, and there were wetland plants that were succeeding. So it is a wetland area. The soils are hydric and for both locations. And so then we had decided at the last meeting that we would just do a site visit to confirm what is said in the report. And today everything looked fine. All the plants look really good in both places. So that was just the other thing we were looking at today.
Okay. I can fill out the paperwork and upload it to the commission, but just basically stating what we had, just because if we're discussing it, the paperwork should be filed. Okay,
Sounds
I'm just
good.
going to log in out and try and sign back in and see if I can get my video working. But
Okay.
okay, bye.
We'll wait for her since I have to be sure to let her in. Unless she doesn't come back. Then we'll just move on. All right, I don't see her. She must be having computer problems. Scott, the next thing is land management update. You have some interesting things?
I do have a couple of items for us to talk about, and I think probably top of the list would be the moving forward on the grants that were approved at town meeting here for top of the lake and for Southbrook Conservation Area. And I think I still have a question outstanding in terms of just the process that we would use. I know in the past with previous grants for West Quabbin Woodlands, I think I had pursued getting bids from contractors and they had sent them back, and then I was getting ready to award those, and then it sounded like there might have been like another process that the town would use for soliciting bid awards and the contracts that they would use. And so I was looking to not repeat that and to start out from the beginning. I really would love to get the bid solicitations out for a design build for Southbrook. I think that's a large grant award. I'd like to get moving on it. I just don't know. I think it's really a question for, I think it's for the town administrator, really just to chime in to see what what contract solicitation process they would use for grant of that size, and for any particular grant, solicitation language, that would have to be in an award that was issued from the Concom to any grantee. And so I'm really kind of I am standing by awaiting that information and anxious to
Is
get going.
Mateo looking into it for you? Is he? Was-
That would be a great, I was hoping Mateo was going to be on tonight. I was going to ask him. I did write a couple of emails just for process here. The last one I sent to the town assistant and, or the town accountant, the town administrator, and Mateo. Asking that question, I haven't heard back.
Okay, because I was just gonna say the accountant or the comptroller, whoever, whatever their office is here in Shutesbury, they would know too about sort of the procurement process that the town likes to use. But also the town administrator, she's new, so, but she could find out, and I'm sure she's also already had experience with it, so,
Yeah, my guess is they're busy and have a lot going on, and
yeah.
maybe this hasn't risen to the top of the list, but I've been paying them about once a week on this, and so I'll continue to ping them on it, but I really would love to get the grant award out
Yeah.
for both of those. West Quabbin Woodlands, we had the parking area there to be done. Of course, we had a outstanding amount. I had bid that last year, and then I think we ended up with the kind of rigmarole around that. I think the highway department said they would like to construct the parking lot, and so I had been in contact with them. I think they said they would like to do that this year, and I had given them kind of the design for that, so I assume that ball is in their court, and they're going to be working on that for the parking lot, and then we can go from there. But I think those are the highlights, or at least what I wanted to bring here tonight. That's my end
Good,
of
no,
report,
that's
unless we
great.
have any questions.
And it's great that now you have a little more time to do all the pinging of people, like even Dave at the highway department. You may want to check in at some point to see when he thinks this summer he's gonna get to the parking lot, you know, just to make sure he still has it on his radar for doing it.
That's an
This, I mean,
excellent
he could do it in the
idea.
fall too, I suppose, but you know.
Yeah, I think it was probably a month ago that I had contacted him, so that's a great suggestion. Maybe I'll follow up with everyone here, beginning part of, well, next week's a holiday week, so maybe at the end of this week before people break, I'll contact them again.
Good. I know that something in my court is that I need to go up to town hall and sign those CPA grants for that are coming to the Conservation Commission. They're up there, and that was something Mateo asked me to do earlier this week. I hope it wasn't last week, but no, I think it was earlier this week, and I said I would get to it, but I haven't gotten up there yet. So they're not signed yet, so technically we probably can't even use the money quite yet, but it's it'll be available soon, so.
Yeah, well, it would be good to get it going. I was just hiking over at Southbrook, and those low areas that were kind of on the trail that are resource areas that are getting impacted, they're still pretty muddy and people are walking
Yeah.
through them, and it would just be good to get that
Oh, yeah.
squared away.
Yeah, I think there's a few areas in Southbrook that it would be great to have what we've proposed putting there, bridges and bog bridging and everything. It would be great for people, but also great for the environment there. So,
Yeah. Not related to any of the properties we manage, but related to some of the bog bridging. I was over at the Brightwater bog unit there at Kestrel, and
mhm.
walking around that area that they hay or mow late in the season, and it was looking really beautiful. The pitcher plants this year were I've never seen them in bloom like they were this year. There were just
Oh,
tons and
wow.
tons of them all across that wet meadow there. So a really sensitive wetland habitat.
great.
I know that comes up periodically in terms of when it can be mowed or what have you, but it really is just a fantastic bog there. So, and it's looking beautiful.
Oh, good to know. I haven't had the time to get over there, so that's great to get a report. And
Scott, where's the closest place you can park to that?
Right on Wendell Road. They have the parking area, and that's the parking area that had come in originally. We had them kind of reroute it around that bog, and yeah, if it's right in that location. Of course, out in the main bog too, there are pitcher plants, but they're actually more right in that first wetland habitat that's kind of near their overlook that they had built. So happy to show you anytime if you're going to be in the neighborhood.
That sounds delightful. I warn you, I'll take you up on that.
Cool.
All right, it's 7:15. So we can start our meeting for the administrative approval request for Lake Wyola Association for the North Beach. And I see Mary, an old commissioner. Nice to see you
Hi,
again.
everybody. Congratulations on getting through all those bylaw work.
Thank you.
So the Lake Wyola Association has agreed to look at and approve putting in the permit for removal of trees at the North Beach. The trees are actually, as Jana said, in the 50 to 100 foot from the lake. They are a danger to people walking by. As you can see, a lot of the branches are falling. The trees are also over the property that's on the beach line and dropping things on their roof too. So they actually put in the request for us to look at it for 10 Wyola Drive. And it's been approved by the association. And they had an arborist. I sent with the request, look at all the trees. They're in pretty bad condition. A lot of them are dual trees that if you take down one, the other one's probably gonna fall over or die. So we've already had it looked at to make recommendations, and the association board approved moving forward with this request. Answer any questions, or I sent all the pictures through with it too, so he took a lot of pictures and to show everybody what it looked like.
Yeah.
And Jan, I looked at it with Jan earlier, so.
So is this might be a naive question, but is this land that's owned by the Lake Association, or is it private land, but the Lake Association is,
It's owned by the Lake
charge?
Association.
it is land, okay, it's the North Beach is all, okay. Right. Yeah, I looked through the report from the arborist, and it certainly looks like the trees need to come down, and the pictures certainly show it, and Jan kind of already gave the summary of the site visit. So I don't really have any other questions. I guess Jan kind of alluded to no machinery, so is it the trees are gonna be taken down by hand?
Yeah, because the access is blocked off to cars or vehicles being able to move through.
Okay. All right, well, and it also seems like it qualifies for an administrative approval because it's tree removal and they are all considered hazardous and they're all over 50 feet from the lake bank or any other resource area. So I have no more concerns or questions. Anyone else? Bob?
Oh, I was just gonna make a motion.
Okay. I'll take a motion.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that based on the submittal, the arborist letter, as well as the eyewitness of one of our commissioners, that we approve the removal of the requested trees.
Okay, second?
I'll second.
Nice. All right, Douglas,
Aye.
Khan,
Aye.
Rowan,
Aye,
and Wilson. Aye.
you've got mayor too now.
Oh, and Mayor, is she here?
I
Oh,
am. I still
I
can't
can't
get my
see.
video to work.
I
I
see
have a
you.
question. I know that we're supposed to be visible at all times. So I'm not sure if I can vote because I can't get my video to work. So I think I'm just to be very like candid, like very,
Yeah,
transparent, even though you can't see me.
I don't know what
That-
the exact rule is, but that sounds like it could definitely be a rule.
Yeah, it
Um,
was because I remembered when I, did all this and read everything, it says you're supposed to be visible at all times, as especially because we're in Zoom. But so I'm just gonna sit out for, I'm listening and but I'm not gonna vote on anything. And I've gone 5 years with 5.5 years with never having a problem with my video, and now all of a sudden I can't get it to work, and I don't know why. But so I'm just gonna sit out and
So,
say I'm not gonna vote.
Mary, oh,
Yes,
I just got a thing that says my internet connection's unstable. Um, so I'll issue the administrative approval, next week and get it out to you.
okay.
Um, and that's it. So thanks for coming to the commission with your tree removal.
Thanks for making it easy. Glad to see you guys again.
Nice to see you too. Have a good
Thank you.
night.
You too.
Beth, is that being in
Right.
view oops. Is that a requirement under the town or our bylaw as far as being visually present during a meeting?
I can't say that I know, and I'm wondering if it was something that came out of COVID. Like there's some requirements for Zoom meetings. But if Mayor thinks she saw it in something, yeah, I can't say where it is. I don't know. But it may definitely be some kind of a requirement.
Maybe we can have Mateo check that for another time. Because certainly we have the ability to have people dial in that don't have access with a computer.
Yeah, I think, yeah,
I don't think you can deny them just because they don't have they can dial in, so I don't know what difference it makes whether she's dialed in and her camera isn't working.
yeah, I don't know. We'll look into it and see. But she thought that she remembered seeing something, so
I mean, I'd
I'd
just
rather
check.
be safe than sorry.
Yeah.
But all right. Next on our agenda is to ratify the emergency cert for 74 Pratt Corner Road. This was emergency cert for Miriam. It was really an extension, or well, it was a new. Let me just share my screen. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, so this was just, we had issued them an emergency cert to deal with their well that had gotten flooded and contaminated. And I think it involved trenching to their house and then also putting in a drain, a yard drain. And they hadn't gotten the work done by the time that the previous emergency cert expired. So they came to our last meeting and requested I guess at the last meeting, they talked a little bit about it. The last meeting, they were also here for their vernal pool discussion. Anyway, this is basically a new emergency cert for the same work that they were unable to get. So they've got from June 16th to July 16th to get the work done. And that's all it is. So we're just ratifying it tonight. It was already issued. Anybody have any questions or comments?
Okay, may I make a motion?
Yes, please.
I motion that we ratify the emergency certification.
All right, second.
I'll second.
All right, roll call. Douglas,
Aye.
Khan,
Aye.
Rowan,
I
and Wilson. Aye. Great. All right, next is certificate of compliance for 70 Lake Drive. I see Mark is here. Mark, why don't you talk a bit about it? And then I did draft one that we can draft the certificate. We can take a look at that too.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Basically, it was a relatively simple project where we just expanded parts of the deck and enclosed it to create a handicapped accessible front door and a screen room, a sun porch or a screen porch. You know, there was really no disruption to the resource area. There's no change to the topology of the site. We used helical piles as the foundation, so they're pleasantly easy to drill in and with minimal disruption. And you know, we're kind of done. That's all there is to it.
Okay.
Any questions?
Well, good. I'm glad your project went well. I think Jan, you did a site visit, right?
I did.
Yeah. Can you give a little report?
There was virtually no disruption of the ground surface where it was. The grass has been planted and when I looked, it was at 75% and it's better than that now.
Okay, great. Bob, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I apologize, Madam Chair. I would like to recuse myself as I'm a director of a butter to the project.
Okay. Now we only have 3 people. So I guess I'm gonna say that I do think Mayor can probably still vote remotely. I mean, she's not remote, she can vote even though we can't see her lovely face. Mayor, have you been listening to this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so
And I'm
the
familiar
certificate
with
of-
the project and what's been done, so.
Okay. And I guess I need to ask if both you and Jan are outside the abutter. You're not a butter, so you're over 300 feet.
I believe I am over 300 feet because my lot is 100 itself, so it's got to be at least 300.
The
Well, it would be
regulation-
300 from your property line. but-
Regulation isn't distance, Beth, if you remember, it's distance or beyond a butter to a butter.
Okay. Yeah, so they do own a property, but that is a separate parcel, so right, Mark?
Yeah, technically our leach field is across the street. And so,
That's not.
right, but there's no building on it or anything. It's just
Okay.
it's just a grassy field.
Yeah.
I
Okay,
thought, yeah, I thought
think we're good.
the requirements were 150 feet. Isn't that on the Concom website? That a butter is defined as 150 feet?
We didn't have to know that, June.
right, yeah, sorry. Abutters are 100 feet. And right, the 300 had to do with
Planning board.
yeah, well, it had to do with something else too. Remember when they brought that up at one of our meetings? And
But
I
it
was
was-
thinking 300 too, because Amherst is 300, but
But it was still the
Only
distance
100.
or a butter to beyond a butter to a butter.
I think I satisfy both, or this property satisfies both as being distance and not direct to butter.
okay, good. All right then. Um, we're good then, and it sounds like the project went well, and there were no issues with erosion or anything like that. Project's complete in accordance with the order of conditions. So I share my screen, I did put together the certificate of compliance. All right, so this form is pretty straightforward. Being issued to Mark. Location of the site. Oh, and actually, Jan, I wanted to ask you if you remember what day you did the site visit?
Did I do a form on that? Let's see here. Would this be the only form I never filled out?
I hope not.
It might be. Jeez. I did send you a notice that I did it.
Yeah, I was looking through my texts, but I just didn't have time today.
I don't know. I don't seem to have a form, but I'll look and see if I can't give you the date.
Okay. Yeah, well, let me know. So that's the one thing that's not filled in on here, but all the rest we've got. We're issuing a complete certification. And that's basically it. If we had some ongoing conditions, we could add them, but I don't think this project needs any ongoing conditions. And then there's just signatures that I'll fill in once we vote. And there's an appeal process. No, there's recording information.
Okay, Beth, it was on June 16th.
All right, great. All right. So if nobody else has any concerns, and there's nobody from the public to ask really for anybody has comments. I'll take a motion to issue the certificate of compliance for 70 Lake Drive.
So motioned.
Second?
I'll second.
All right. Roll call. Con,
Aye.
Rowan,
Aye.
Fox,
Aye.
and Wilson. Hi. So great. We'll get you your certificate of compliance, Mark, and it does have to get recorded.
Yep.
Yep.
There's,
And did you-
there's one other outstanding issue, if you got time to talk about it.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask you if
Okay.
you want to talk about that old order of conditions.
Right, when we bought the house in 2001, we had a septic system replaced in 2002. We had orders of conditions, but apparently, back then I didn't really know what was the process for this stuff, but we never got a certificate, we never filed a certificate of compliance. And so we went to do that, and there's a couple of issues. We needed a test as a certified copy, and the book and page number needed to be updated. And
So is it the order of conditions that didn't get recorded, or the
no,
certificate of compliance?
just a certificate of compliance. The orders of conditions was recorded, and it was Mark Stinson who noted that the certificate of compliance was never filed. So this is
Oh,
something that
okay.
we just forgot about or didn't know about. And
Okay. With the stuff you sent me, I was looking through some of it. Did you actually send me a copy of that certificate of compliance?
No, I sent you a copy of the orders of conditions.
Yeah,
You were looking
okay.
at signed copies of the orders of condition.
Yeah, I guess I don't really need that old certificate of compliance, because what we'll do is reissue that. Issue you basically a new certificate of compliance with the idea that that old one, because often people don't record those, forget to and lose the certificate of compliance, but as long as the order had once been recorded and the project got complete, we can take a look through that old order conditions, possibly even just come and do a quick site visit again to make sure that that work that was done so long ago was done in accordance with the order.
Okay,
And then we can reissue a certificate of compliance.
yeah, with the updated book number and.
Yes, yeah, and then you'll be able to record it.
Great.
Yeah. I'm just gonna say this, I think you may have to submit a request and another $50
Okay.
for an updated. In fact, I think in our fee schedule, we have a price for reissues of things, because often people lose things and then we have to go through the process of reissuing, and so we do charge people for that. So anyway, yeah.
I can check with Mateo on that.
yeah, check with Mateo on that.
So I
But
should
we
just,
can-
so I should just complete a new certificate of compliance form and send up to Mateo with the cash, with a check and confirm what the cost is.
Yes, that's
Okay.
great. Yeah, another
problem.
request, similar to what you did for this certificate of compliance,
Okay,
and we'll probably, like I said, have to schedule another site visit, and go through the same thing at another meeting
okay.
soon.
Sounds good.
All right, great. Anything else?
No, that's it.
Oh, excellent. Um, all right then. Well, thank you, Mark, for coming.
You're welcome. Thank you guys for taking care of it.
Sure. Have a good night.
You too.
All we have left on our agenda is unanticipated business, which I don't really think there is any. Do you guys have anything else? Yeah. Awesome. I love a short meeting.
Wait a
in
minute,
summer.
do you want me to do as a grand finale for myself, a septic tank site visit?
Do we have one for you to do?
Well, you just said you wanted to do a
Mark?
site visit.
Yeah. If you would like, yeah, I would say we want to wait for him to submit his request. And then once we do receive that, then we would set up a site visit.
Okay.
So I don't know. Yeah, go ahead. Set it up with him and go
Why
over
not?
it. Take Mare with you.
Well, he was telling me, it was so funny. He was telling me that when they bought the house, that they were going, they I guess didn't go into the basement or something, and there was like an open, like uh just
Cesspool.
well or something. Yeah, exactly. I can't remember if they said it was a cesspool or a well, but like I think it was the well, and it was just
Oh,
huge, and they had to like rectify the whole thing, and he said it was like, I mean, bigger than, several people holding hands and making a circle. Did he ever tell you that, Jan?
Uh, I maybe.
It was just like, what? It was kind of like one of those things you just didn't expect to see or hear
he's
when,
still,
That
what was it, Mark? What were you saying?
that was actually Annie's house, just on the other side of the street. We had
Oh.
bought it and we were planning to rebuild it and we were working in the cellar, kind of just cleaning things up. And there's this big plywood piece, there was like 2 sheets of plywood covering, well, what I thought was a makeshift floor. And so I was working, standing on it. And then when we went to have it tear down, Clark's excavator opened it up and the excavator almost fell into it. It was that big. And it was just like
oh,
a cistern or
it's a sister.
a swimming
Oh, okay.
pool. It was huge. And
Huh.
it's one of those things that you realize that if I had broke through, if I had broke through, I could still be down there.
Oh my God.
Wow. Oh, I thought it was under your house, but oh my
No,
gosh, that's
it was
crazy.
Annie's house.
That's
Was it, I'm just curious, was it fed by groundwater or like roof drainage or?
It was
a
groundwater.
cistern? Was it groundwater?
Groundwater, and there was a lot of water in there. That was their water supply.
Huh. Wow, that's wild. That is wild. Well,
Which is a nicer surprise than the one we had at our house. And underneath the living room, there was something that looked like a well that was indeed the cesspool that all the waste from the house went into. And I remember trying to explain it to a director of the Board of Health. It's like, no, it's inside the house. No, where's your cesspool? No, it's inside the house. And just could not believe that a house had been built like that. But luckily, long since corrected. But yeah, we were glad to get rid of it.
I bet. Yeah. What year was that you bought that?
I think it was the 30s or the 40s that it was built, and then
Yeah.
I bought it sometime in the 90s.
Hmm. Wow, that's wild. Crazy stuff. But fun and exciting kind of old towns and all their
Old
weird
houses in
things.
Old Town, yeah.
Old towns and weird things. All right then. I will take a motion to adjourn.
I think you should go for it, Jan.
So motioned.
I will second.
All right, I see a little person. All right, well, thanks again, Jan.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Dan.
Thank you,
Thanks, everybody.
Jan.
Have a great night.
And I'll take, oh
Good
wait, we have
night.
to vote. Let's
Oh,
vote.
right.
Oh, yeah.
Let's vote.
Aye.
Douglas,
Aye.
Rowan,
Aye.
Fox,
Bye.
Khan,
Aye.
and Wilson. All right, good night, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Nice out.
Night, night, night.